Fears continue to mount here in Israel as the number of cases rise. According to the latest statistics from the Ministry of Health, there are right now 255 cases, with 55 new confirmed cases just in the last 24 hours. The highest one-day increase so far. 202 Israelis are hospitalized, and there are now 5 people listed in serious to critical condition. Only 4 Israelis have totally recovered from the virus. Back here in studio as we await the swearing in of the new Knesset. Dr. Scheindlin, I want to ask about the offer that Netanyahu made, similar to the offer after the second election, which is I'll stay prime minister for a few months, and then we could return to the same stalemate, or we do a unity government, and then you can pick up the slack after I leave office. Is this an opportunity for Gantz to climb down, perhaps, from the tree, the coronavirus outbreak? I mean, we now see a huge gap in support specifically for the Likud party and the blue and white party, the number of the support for the Likud party. Could the coronavirus pandemic be an opportunity for Gantz to accept Netanyahu going first in a rotation deal, whereas before it was a politically untenable decision?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't overstate the gap in support for Likud versus blue and white. There was, as far as I know, maybe one survey that came out just last week. I don't think there were any more. The overall blocks were almost entirely unchanged. Likud maybe had, 1 seat more, but that's very much like the surveys towards the end of the election period. Those are all within the margin of error.
But basically,
there's no significant
change. The gap between the Likud and Netanyahu after the third election compared to the second election.
Oh, you mean the 3-seat gap in the third election? Yes, although, again, it's really a matter of vote shifting within the blocks. I don't think it indicates much of a difference. And I think that when you put the question like that, it assumes that Gantz was looking to climb down from the tree. I think this isn't just about a political, how can I make this happen in a way that looks okay to my voters. I think Gantz and all of his voters essentially believe that Netanyahu is not going to do a good job running the country. Now, the question is,
But he still is. Gantz has failed. He had the mandate, he failed. This is now we're through 3 elections. He's still the prime minister.
So Netanyahu's also failed to form a government in that time.
But he's still the prime minister. He's still making.
He is. But why does that make it any easier? The only thing that makes it easier, again, I don't think it's because he would want to, find a ladder to climb down from the tree. It's only a question of whether people are worried that the public won't buy into the idea of a government transition or instability at this time because of the difficulty managing the crisis. However, by the very same logic, I think the public will have just as difficult a time with a government that is limited in time. There has been talk of establishing an emergency government just for 6 months. And, as not even as an analyst, but as a citizen, the last thing I want when we have no idea how long this crisis will last is to know that in 6 months we're going to have to go through all this again and possibly have elections again. So I don't really think it makes it that much easier. In fact, we all thought on Saturday night when the Prime Minister reiterated his call for an emergency government, especially on Thursday night, that it would happen right away. But in the intervening days, it turns out that the crisis is continuing. Both of them have had a little victory in the meantime. Gantz got the mandate. Let's not forget that Netanyahu's trial was postponed. It was supposed to open tomorrow. So they're both sort of reinforcing their position, but also reinforcing their political positions. I'm not sure really how it changes things.
Jeremy, one of the first things that Benny Gantz and the Blue and White Party hopes to achieve today, as soon as possible, the first order of business, will be to try and oust the Knesset Speaker, Yuli Edelstein. They do have a majority of democratically elected lawmaker support for that. Isn't it a perfectly legitimate move to try and have the majority of the representative body of the government elect the Speaker if they want?
Look, it's obviously legitimate to go according to the law. Edelstein is also going by the law by saying that we're not going to have it now. But I think one of the things that really no one's talking about, and you mentioned this at the top, that we're only going to have a certain amount of MKs in the room at the same time. How are you supposed to conduct a vote of all 120 when everything that is being said by all of the professionals is that we should not have that many people in the room at the same time? How are you going to have that type of a vote? I'll remind you that people went to jail for double voting and all of these other type of ideas. You need to have all the Knesset members sitting at their seats after the inauguration in order to conduct a vote, whether it's held today or some other time.
Why do you think
I don't think this is the time to be going ahead and doing this.
Do you think the startup nation can't find a technological solution?
You can, but again, we're stuck following the law. That's just what you do in a democracy. And in a democracy, like I said, the solutions that people have that I've seen raised on social media, you can't do that. You would have to, again, bring everyone into the same room to change the legislation in order to accomplish that. So we're stuck in a situation where until we're able to really bring all 120 into the same room to conduct a vote,
there's no democracy in this country
anymore? It's not saying that we do not have a democracy.
Well, the law. What you're saying is that government is going to be suspended until the crisis is over.
Well, listen, we have a functioning government which has been caretaker since December of 2018. What the law does say is until there is a swearing in of a new government, which will happen if Gantz is somehow able to present a government. I just don't see that happening. But if you want to go ahead and go down that path, let's say that, yeah, Yazbek and Lieberman end up agreeing, and the same 61 that recommended Gantz in the president's residence produce 61 majority to be voted on in Knesset, so they can go ahead and replace the speaker, and they can decide to pass whatever piece of legislation they want that is not anchored within a basic law that requires a special majority. But until that happens, if the law says that Edelstein is allowed to prevent until the formation of a new government the vote on speaker, it's in his right to do so because that's what the law says.
I think we're looking. I think you're looking at very technical excuses at a situation during a situation when the entire country is going to have to function on technological solutions without trying to circumvent the law. But without circumventing the law, I mean, we have to do a lot of things now without circumventing the law. If we want to talk about the law, how about the laws on privacy in Israel and the decision of the Prime Minister to pass brand new laws and get the approval of the Justice Ministry to have surveillance?
There's parliamentary oversight. Gabi Ashkenazi, who is the head of the Blue and White Party, is also the current chair of the Defense and Foreign Affairs Committee. He signed off on all of these measures. These measures are bipartisan.
In other words,
I understand there might be some satellite parties that don't agree with what's going on there, but the two major parties agree with it.
But what you're saying is when there's a need to circumvent the law, we can find procedures that are within the law for dealing with them. I want to make one more point. It's all very well and good to talk on a message box kind of approach to saying, well, it's Lieberman and Yazbek, but Hiba Yazbek is only one member of 15 seats, and she's not the party leader. So I think we should stick to talking about the heads of the parties. Ayman Odeh is the head of the joint list. He's the one who's going to make these decisions.